Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Let's Talk. I am your host, author Dree Lett. Here at Let's Talk, we are here to inform, inspire, and motivate. And thank you so much for joining us for another week of fun, exciting, informative, inspirational, and motivational topics. So every week, as I tell you guys, you can view my podcast on two social mediums, which is Facebook under Let's Talk with Author Drelette and my YouTube channel with Let's Talk with Author Drelette. There you can find all my shows going all the way back to August when I first started. And you'll see how I changed, evolved, and just kept going and improving. So make sure you hit like, subscribe, and tell a friend. So again, I want to thank you guys for joining me. So as I tell you guys every all the time that every Friday we change the subject, if you will. So this Friday is called Inform Friday. I thought it was very important to have an informative Friday so that we can bring you abreast of what's going on. I know there's a lot of media stuff out there, a lot of things that are being said. And so I just wanted to give you guys some really good information, some solid information from our perspective. My special guests tonight are Lakeisha Gantt, Councilwoman of the City of Stockbridge. We also have Chief Director of Campus Security and Safety, Kevin Williams. They're both here to give us their take on the historic events that took place last week at our nation's capital. So before I start, I want to give a huge, enormous shout out to my sorors. Happy Founders Day to my sorors of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I am so glad to see us reach another 113 years of service, extraordinary service. So happy Founders Day, sorors. So let me first introduce my first guest. My first guest is City of Stockbridge Councilwoman Lakeisha Gantt. After graduating from law school at the age of 25, Lakeisha was the first African American female from Forsyth, Georgia. She became an attorney for the Superior Court of Talladega Judicial Circuit in 2011 and 2012. Attorney Lakeisha Gantt was sworn in as the first chairman of the Ethics Board for the City of Stockbridge. In 2012, she became the first African American to be appointed as a solicitor for the City of Stockbridge. Lakeisha currently resides in Stockbridge and is the owner of the Gantt and Associates law firm where she practices mainly civil and real estate law. She is a member of the Henry County Bar Association, the family law section of the state bar, a volunteer for multiple nonprofit organizations, and last but not least, she is my soror, a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So without further ado, I would like to bring on Councilwoman Gantt. Hello,
Hi.
Councilwoman Gantt. How are
Happy
you?
Founders Day.
Happy Founders Day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
So you staying safe, wearing a mask, washing your hands, all that good stuff?
I know. Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yes. So I wanted to bring you on because after seeing all the craziness last week, I mean, I'm just speechless. And I just wanted to bring you on to give a clear understanding of what took place from a legal perspective and also what took place in Georgia, the historic monument that we were able to achieve with Senators John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. So I just wanted to see if you could come on and fill us in on those two topics. So as an elected official, in your opinion, what turned Georgia into a blue state, and how do you think this all happened?
Well, I'm glad you said that. I think it's a movement that's coming. And, Georgia really hasn't really been, uh, there have been talks always of Georgia turning blue. But, at most, we would expect for Georgia to turn purple, right? And at this point, we're really excited about what Georgia has done. Um, and to me, it's more of a grassroots. It's something that has been here the entire time. That is so simple, and that is us not being aware of the ability to make it happen. There have been a whole bunch. Shout out to Stacey Abrams. There's
Yes.
been a whole bunch of people um, who really looked at the data and say, wait a minute. If we get those 18-year-olds enrolled, or the people who haven't voted in a long time, if we really recognize what's going on, let them know. Listen, if you vote, we win. And so the whole Black Lives Matter, the whole Black Vote Matter, Black Women Matter,
Mhm.
um, all the movements, they work, specifically, especially with Black women. And I think that it's exciting. It's an exciting time because never in a history of anywhere, right, would a runoff become so, like a presidential campaign. Basically,
Mhm.
it became, the word got out that this was really really important, and the excitement hit once everyone realized that Biden could win and won. They knew that if they go back out and vote, that we can get those two Democratic senators in office, and that's what happened. And so it's a matter of us really looking at data and realizing, listen, this can be done. And I think once people realize what's going on, they start voting. Um, and we need to continue doing that. We need to continue doing that, whether it's a local election. I don't care if you're voting for, if you want to see Dumbo at the circus. It does not matter. I think that every election is important. And once people realize that that vote is powerful, um, we will continue on to make the changes that are necessary within our lives, within our city, our states, our communities.
That's awesome. And you know that you make such good points. You know, during all the shootings, unfortunately, last year and years past, we've seen people get upset, and we've seen some law enforcement walk away, no charges or nothing. And the first thing I've always thought of was they got off because that's the way the law is structured, right? But if we go to the polls and we vote and put people in places to help change those laws, right? When those injustices are done, they won't walk off scot free, you know. So you're right. We got to vote. It,
Right.
it it was so refreshing to see everybody just come out. Now I will admit, you know, my phone was blowing up, the calls and the text messages from people always pushing to make sure you're voting. But I thought it was wonderful. You know,
Mhm.
I even had somebody knock on the door and say, "Have you voted?"
Yeah.
That
And
was
what
huge.
happens is you find those communities that we have all the data. It's amazing. People don't realize it, that there's software both on the Republican side and the Democratic side that tell not necessarily who you voted for, but when was the last time you voted,
Mm,
right? And if you're a strong Democrat or a leaning Democrat or a strong Republican or a leaning Republican, it
mhm.
literally lists everything there is to know about when that last time was that you voted. So I want to thank the state of Georgia, first of all. We saved America, in
We
my opinion.
did.
And
We did.
and I want, people to know that your vote matters. You hear all the time, and I can give you an example. People complain about, let's say they're going after a government contract. They'll say, "Oh, you're not going to get that because the good old boys have that already lined up." Well,
Mm,
guess what happens? The good boys get rid of the good old boys. How do you get rid of them? You get
mhm,
rid of them by voting. You get rid of them by voting for people who can relate to your needs, voting for people who can relate to your circumstances, voting for people who live the life you've lived. If
mhm,
your parents were, if you lived in a single parent household, if you had parents who were working every day and just struggled to make ends meet, or, who fell on hard times because of the market or a crash, you want to vote for people who can relate to your needs. Because right now we have a whole, but if you look, it's a shame. Congress does not look like America. It doesn't. You have a whole bunch of gray-headed,
mhm,
white, gray, majority white men. Congress doesn't look like America. They can't tell me what a black household looked like, what it looks like to grow up in a black household,
mhm,
regardless of if you're a Democrat or Republican. And
mhm,
that's not, more of a racial thing. It's more of, you have to start voting, people, because we need to vote for who represents and who can understand your needs. Not saying that people can't understand your needs. And so I think that is very important. And I'm excited about Georgia. I'm so excited. I'm just excited about where Georgia is right now and the potential that we have. We have the potential of putting Stacey Abrams, hopefully, as governor in 2022. We
Yes.
have the potential of changing the Supreme Court. We have the potential of changing the judging system, right? Because
Mhm.
we're not, what we're asking for, God forbid what happened at the Capitol.
Oh,
What we're asking for is equal treatment,
yep,
right? We're
exactly.
not asking for you to cover up some wrongdoings. We're just asking to be treated the same. And
Mhm,
so putting people in office is the way to do it. You want those contracts? You want a fair shot at those contracts. You have
mm,
to put in people who know, who've applied, who's been rejected, who know what that looks like.
mhm,
You want someone in education? Well, God forbid we have people in education making decisions who didn't go to a public school,
mm,
right? You
that's
have people who are making decisions and their kids have been out of school over 40 years ago, 30
ugh,
years ago.
mm,
You want to start thinking about that. And it's time. I mean, There have been issues even talking about term limits and, things modernized, and some people may be stuck in their ways. And that's true. And I think we have to become more educated on certain issues and look to see, are we just voting for people because they've been in it for a long time? Or are we voting
Mm,
for the right people who have been fighting for you and your rights, regardless of what that right is? Everyone's right and passion isn't the same. So what are we vote? Who are you voting for? You're voting because they have the name, or are you
mm.
voting for just the accolades they did 20 years ago, or are you voting for something that has actually made a difference that makes sense? And so I'm just, vote Georgia, keep voting.
Yes.
That's my statement.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And you're so right. Because, even when you look at the pandemic and the most recent stimulus that we had, the Mitch McConnell, he was like, no, only $600. Well, if we had somebody up there that understands what it's like to be a single parent or to live in certain neighborhoods with certain incomes, they would know $600 is not enough. It's just not. But like you said, he's been there, what, 37 years, and maybe he's lost touch with what the real world is like. And like you said, America is very diverse now. And you're right. We do need people in those places that can make those decisions for us or help us. So yeah, I was so excited. I could do cartwheels all day just when we turn blue. And you're right, Georgia, we did save America because we were red and all we needed were those two to get in. And boy, did we vote. That is huge. That is awesome. Oh my goodness.
Yes, 5 more days. 5 more days.
Yes. Oh,
And history is made. And it's awesome to know that you have someone in office that my little girls can say, look like me, look
yes.
like them,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
Who can relate, who
Yes.
regardless of, and I hear this all the time, and it's really quite disgusting. Well, she's really not black. She's really an Indian, and her father's Jamaican, and she's really not black. This is a woman who went to a HBCU,
Mhm.
historically Black College University,
Mhm.
who pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha, our dear sorority,
Yes.
and who has broken all kind of glass ceilings
Mhm.
and has embraced what America sees her as, which is a black woman.
Exactly.
And so, I'm just excited. I'm excited for them, you know, and I'm in hopes that everyone is safe during this time and this season, specifically because of the things and the turmoil that has went on at our state capitol.
I know. Oh my goodness. And I'm so glad you brought that up because that's my next question. So as I was watching CNN, as some of the viewers I'm sure have been watching too, and Fox News and all the other media outlets, it kind of gets confusing. So help us understand. So we know that he was impeached. I'm not going to say his name. He was impeached. So help us understand how when the Senate comes back on the 19th in the conviction, how does that all go about? So will they decide if he's actually impeached? Is it a done deal? Can you help us understand that?
So that's good. Actually, our Constitution provides in Article 1, Section 2, that the House of Representatives of Congress, the representatives, have sole power of impeachment. People tend to get impeachment a little bit confused. Okay. After the House of Representatives, which we saw, impeached, which is are basically these charges, and the charges were abuse of power. Ironically, he's been impeached twice, right? First president in history. There have been three presidents that have been impeached. One was about to be impeached and he resigned. That was Richard Nixon. The other three, two have been found not guilty, Johnson and Bill Clinton. And when I say found not guilty, that's your ratings. How does that happen? Well, the process is that the House of Representatives in Article 1, Section 2 of our Constitution actually states that the House of Representatives have sole rights to impeach.
Mm,
They found that person, our number 45, to be an abuse of power. And they also found him guilty of inciting a crowd of a mob to
mm,
go and attack our nation's capital. capital.
Mm.
Um, we all saw it play out on TV. 5 people died. The next step becomes the Senate step. The House of Representatives forms a committee of what they call managers or representatives, manager representatives, who go kind of like what an attorney would do and plead the case to the Senate, of which would the Senate would have a hearing basically. And in that hearing, they decide whether or not to convict that person,
Mm.
45, of those two crimes that they have currently been charged with, whether or
Okay.
not they would be found guilty. Now, it's not by majority, it's by supermajority. And when I say supermajority, that has to convict, which is a concern of me, means that it requires a 2/3 vote
Mm.
in order to get a guilty. However, he's already been impeached. Let's make that known. In order
Okay.
to be convicted, there needs to be by the Senate a 2/3 vote. Now, having said that, um, what happens during an impeachment if you're convicted? Several things can happen, but one of the main things you've been seeing on CNN, and one of the biggest things is you can be removed from office. And not only can you be removed from office, even though it will be late and he will already be gone, you can be held liable to the point where you're never able to hold another office again
Ooh.
in the federal government. You're
Mm.
never ever able to run or be elected again. And there have been talks. We all know that 45 has spoken and has talked about running in 4 years. So, and it's unfortunate because America's tired of hate and we're
Yeah.
tired of being divided.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's the 101 version of impeachment.
Ooh. That, and I'm glad you explained that. That makes so much more sense now. So let me ask you this. So if they were to convict him, would they in turn also sentence him in terms of does he go to prison? I mean, if it gets to that, do they divvy out sentencing or?
He can go to prison.
Mm.
There are questions, and of course, there's other things that have been discussed in regards to pardons, um, and all kind of things that the president currently has power to do. However, has there been a scenario like that? I doubt he would.
Okay.
Not for the abuse of power and that for these new charges that have um, been brought.
Okay.
In fact, when you look at it, for the most part, every single any type of impeachment that has taken place over the history of years, every single one of them, you'll see one of the biggest charges is abuse of power.
Okay.
And unfortunately, this is taking it to a whole nother level.
Mm.
This is a level of hate, disruption,
Mhm.
code talking, words. Have you ever seen a president be able to tweet and this
Oh.
is someone who represents, this is the highest
Mhm.
political position in the United States. Someone who's representing our country. This is who represents us. This is the face of America.
Oh.
And that is not the face of America. And America stood up and said, you are not the face of us.
Mhm.
America's tired of hate.
Yes.
But America also needs to wake up and realize that we should be voting for people who can relate to
Mm.
our needs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're right. We need to bring back the love of getting along, no matter what color you are. Just we all need to get along. And you're right. Throwing hand signs and signals up, and he has yet to apologize. He has yet to even say anything to the people that lost their lives or to their families. It's just sometimes I have to pinch myself and say, "Is this real? Is it really happening?" Oh my
It's
goodness!
devastating. And it's not the examples of a leader.
Right?
It's not. It is not okay.
No.
It's not.
Mm-mm,
So,
it's not. So what I hope for, and I know I shouldn't be talking politics, but it's real, right? I just hope that he's not able to run again because we don't need more hate. We need
right,
more love and more
right.
to get togetherness. And one thing I like about presidential-elect Joe Biden is that he says, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, we're going to do this together.
That's correct. And that's so important in
Hmm.
any, I know in my position for the city, it's not a, and thank God it's actually a nonpartisan um, position, but it's about doing it together for the best of the nation, for the best of our citizens, for the best of your cities, for the best of your neighborhood, for the best of your communities. That's what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
And we really have to think deep on that. We really, it's something you have to be so genuine. And it shows and it comes through. Now, a lot of times people get into the positions and they're genuine and they're straightforward. They have all these plans and then power hits. And,
Mm.
they get a little taste of that and things change. And that's one of the reasons why I say we really, we probably do need to look at terms for people at times. They are, times have changed and they may be stuck in their ways, and we're, you know on the verge of flying in cars and they're still thinking about their horse and buggies. And so you have to, it is it is important, and it's sad that our nation um is going through so much hatred right now. And in fact, it's really an aha moment to see the boldness and
Yeah.
just outright hatred,
Oh,
just
yes.
complete blind eye. Because
Mhm.
I know for a fact that my brothers or sisters, if they were on those Capitol steps, they couldn't have made it inside the Capitol,
No,
and they definitely wouldn't be alive to tell the story.
no, not at all. What
So,
it's a double standard. Absolutely.
right.
It's crazy. I mean, and hearing some of the law enforcement talk about what was done to them, I'm just appalled. And then, but they're the same individuals this summer run around saying Blue Lives Matter, and then oh
You're
my,
killing blue lives,
oh my
and
gosh.
it's devastating.
Hmm.
It's devastating.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Oh my goodness.
that's
I
politics.
I appreciate you so much breaking it down. I'm looking at the comments from the viewers and they're just chiming in. You guys,
Um,
do you have any questions for Councilwoman Gann? Please just fill them in. Of course, questions that's on topic. We've got my husband, Mr. Mark, is saying hello, hello.
Hi. Hey, Mark.
Let's see here. Somebody said, "Wake up, America." Yes,
Yeah.
wake wake up. We've got to
Yes.
definitely wake up. Absolutely. And somebody else said, "Real equal scales of justice."
Right.
Definitely. I mean, and I like how you just said that people in Congress and the representatives, they've got to reflect what true America is.
Hmm.
True America is. That's huge. Oh my goodness. So you
You
guys,
can't
we
represent me, truly represent me, if you
have
haven't lived in my shoes. If
right.
not even, you know, not even close to
Hmm.
living in my shoes, right?
Hmm.
We don't live on the states. I have two daughters that I have to provide for. You need people that can represent and that can relate to you. And it's just, you know, it's amazing. Shout out to the young people. Shout out to the younger, the
Yeah.
millennials who are studying this stuff, right? Um,
Mhm.
and who have the questions, because it's not Democrat or Republican. It's not whether you're independent. It's voting for what you believe in and what you think is right,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Aside from the color of our skin, um, and it's just been it's been I think it's important for everyone to know that. And the next time you vote, think of those things, right? Just don't vote because that person's been out there forever,
Yeah,
right? They got, you know, locked up and whatever. Don't vote just to vote for something because a person's popular. Vote because they believe in and they're doing something about what you need done. Make
absolutely.
them work.
Mhm.
Make them work. Make me work.
You're doing an awesome job. Awesome
Thank
job.
you.
Oh my goodness, you representing us well. Well,
Thank you.
somebody else said they think they heard they blue flies matter. Wait, I'm trying to read this comment. Okay, yeah, they're talking about blue lives matter. Yeah, absolutely. If they matter, why did you one of the officers got tased in the back of the neck twice. He had a mild heart attack. Like, what in the
Right.
world? What in the world?
Right. And it's bad, guys. Rest in peace to, we've had 5 law enforcement officers die in 2 weeks in Henry County.
Oh my God.
Um, COVID is real. It
Mhm.
is not, COVID doesn't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. It is not political. Unfortunately, it's been made out to be that way. And shame on those who've made
Mhm.
it that way.
Mhm.
Mask up. The state of Georgia is the fourth in the nation right now
Oh,
listed. Our hospitals are full,
mm.
and blue lives matter. They do
Yes.
matter.
Yes.
Um, and I thank God for our law enforcement team. I love, and I support any first responders. Um, but we also have to be responsible too. Black lives matter as well. So
Hmm.
we have to be responsible. And I'll hear people say all lives matter, but you know exactly what we mean.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. We want to be treated fairly.
and
Exactly.
equally, exactly,
Hmm.
definitely.
Hmm.
So
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Councilwoman Gantt, for coming on. I appreciate you so much. You just
thank
don't
you.
know. The viewers are so excited to hear you speak. And you're welcome here anytime. You guys, if you need to touch base, reach out to her via the city of Stockbridge. And she also has her own law firm. Do you want to share that or how they
Sure.
follow you?
My email address is lgant, Gantt, at ganttlegal.com. And that's, I'm here in Stockbridge, Georgia.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much once again. You stay safe out there.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
Well, you guys, as you saw, that was Councilwoman again. She is phenomenal. She's doing great things. Um, Looking for an awesome, prosperous future for her. So awesome for her to come on. So, my next guest, oh my goodness. So, he's going to give it to us from the law enforcement perspective. So, let me give you a formal introduction. This man is awesome as well. He is the Chief Director of Campus Safety and Security, Kevin Williams. Chief Williams is originally from Detroit, Michigan. He holds degrees from the University of Detroit Mercy and the University of Phoenix. He spent 20 years with the Los Angeles Police Department, where he retired at the rank of police lieutenant. He has served as chief director of public safety at various universities across the country. Chief Williams is the past president of the Southern California chapter of National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, known as NOBLE. He is a member of the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators, known as LIACLE, the International Association of Chief of Police, IACP, and a life member of Noble, NAACP, Blacks in Government, and Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Mr. Chief Williams. Hello, Chief Williams, are you there? I see you. Can you hear me? Uh-oh.
Can you hear me now?
I
I was
hear you
on
now.
mute.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. How
Good
are
evening.
you this Thank you for joining
Well,
us.
thank you. How am I? I'm freezing. We were set up to do this in my office, and for whatever reason, Murphy's Law kicked in, and there's no signal. So I came outside. So I'm sitting outside here
Oh,
in Seattle, Washington, and it's freezing. But
oh
I needed to
no.
be. Oh, my sister, I needed to be here today to be with you, and so I'm honored to do that.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Be safe. So we're so glad you could come on. We just had Councilwoman Gantt come on. She explained it to us from the legal perspective of the historic events that took place last week with Georgia turning blue and the insurrection on the Capitol. And I'm so honored that you're here to talk to us from a law enforcement perspective. We hear so many different things on the different media outlets about what really took place and just the craziness. I just can't believe all that happened. So, what I wanted to know is, as I'm sure all my viewers want to know as well, here's the question of the day. Why weren't the terrorists, I call them terrorists, they weren't rioters. Why weren't the terrorists arrested right away? Help us understand that. Why are they still looking for them? And it's a long, drawn out process.
Okay, I think that's a great question. Thank you for your question. Uh, here's the bottom line. There were not enough law enforcement officers on site to address the thousands of people who stormed the Capitol. The
Mm,
Capitol Police Chief, who has since resigned, indicated that only 500 of his 2,000 officer force were on duty.
mm,
So he knew that there was going to be an issue. They were fully aware that there were going to be issues and problems. They didn't properly deploy. So if you've only got 500 people working, but you got thousands of people storming it, let's say that the officers witnessed things right in front of them, which the videos prove that they did. But if that officer or officers starts putting hands on and arresting people on the spot, that pulls them out of their ability to protect the people, our elected officials. It also removes them from the ability to protect the building. So they could not make arrests in mass at that time because there were not enough law enforcement officers. There would be a different response if there had been enough people, i.e., military. I'm talking about National Guard. I'm talking about Capitol Police, the DC Metro Police. If there had been enough, then yes, arrests of those terrorists would have occurred on the spot. But the wise thing to do under that situation is to protect the human beings and meaning our elected officials, regardless of what side of the aisle, and also to protect the building. So that's the reason why the terrorists were not arrested on the spot. And then here's the next piece. And you'll probably relate to this because of that horrific shooting at the Wendy's in Atlanta. Had they simply said, oh, we got this man's driver's license. Oh, we have his car. We got his address. We know where he lives. He ran off that away and simply put out a broadcast, this man will still be alive. So
mhm,
sometimes you don't need to take immediate action. And finally, I'm going to wrap up my portion of this response. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of cameras at the Capitol. And the
mm,
FBI and federal law enforcement agencies are using those cameras to start scooping up people every day. They've already charged over 200 people. So those people are going to be caught. They're going to be found. They're going to be arrested. But that's the direct answer to your question.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's deep. So can I go back a step when you mentioned that the chief of Capitol Police, he only had 500 officers that day, but he has what, 2,000? Have they said why? I mean, they had seen this on social media for weeks. Why not have all 2,000 officers there?
Well, I can't get into the mind of the chief in order to know. I would have handled it differently. He says that he asked for reinforcements, that he asked for support and was turned down. So as a chief, what I would have done at that point is said, I'm canceling all the days off unless you're sick and unable to come to work, unless you're in COVID quarantine, you have to come to work. And I would have had as many of the 2,000 officers there since I did not have the support that I know that I needed under those circumstances. But let me remind you of one other thing. It's not the chief of police, it's not the mayor of DC who can um, mobilize the National Guard. It's the
Mhm.
president of the United States. So we saw a different response when Antifa and Black Lives Matter were
Mhm.
marching and protesting. We saw a completely different response. But that was because the president of the United States had authorized
Mhm.
thousands of
Mhm.
troops. And so if you go back and you look at the videos and you see the arrests on the spot, they had the personnel in place to be able to do it, which was different than what happened that fateful day on the 6th.
Wow, I didn't know that. So he could have actually released National Guard to come and help, but oh my goodness, that's
Who you,
terrible.
you can best believe if it
Mm,
had been Antifa or if it had been
mhm,
Black Lives Matter or
mhm,
something else that he denounced, there would have
mm.
been plenty of troops there. There would
Yeah.
have been a sufficient perimeter that most likely was not breached. But why would he call the police on his own people? Why would he call the National Guard on his own people? That's
Mm.
what happened.
That's terrible. That's really terrible. I mean, that in itself, oh, I'm so glad he was impeached because, people died. People died. I was sharing with Councilwoman Gantt. I heard on CNN one of the guys was saying he was tased twice in his neck. He had a mild heart attack, and then the officer that was squished in the door, blood coming out of his mouth. Thank God he lived. But over the summer, those same supporters were saying Blue Lives Matter, and then here you are beating and trying to kill law enforcement. It just doesn't make sense. And do you have any more information or know anything about the officer that took his own life? Are they suspecting he let them in, or?
I have no information whatsoever, and it would be inappropriate for me to speculate as to why this man chose to take his life. I
Mm,
mourn for him. I mourn for the other officer who was murdered.
mm,
And it's my understanding that a person who threw a fire extinguisher and hit 2 or 3 officers in the head, that
mm.
he's been taken into custody. But I don't know if this is the man who struck the officer in the head who ultimately died.
Oh my
Um,
God.
it's tragic. It's tragic whenever anybody commits suicide for any reason. But it would be inappropriate for me to speculate as to why he took
Mhm.
his life. I simply don't know.
I understand. So, it being in law enforcement and the whole thing of pardon, it's been talk that I'm not going to say his name, that he could possibly pardon all those individuals that stormed the Capitol. Is that in fact? Can he do that?
Yes, he can.
Oh,
And so there are people who are upset about that reality and they reject it. But I want to point 2 things out to you. The assertion by those who are not informed. They said, well, the president cannot pardon the people at the Capitol because he doesn't know them by name. That's not true. I'll explain it in just a moment.
mm,
Um, there are assertions out there who say that the president cannot do a mass pardon. That's not true. And I will be specific about that in just a moment. Okay, here are the specifics. If you go back to January 21st, 1977, January 21st, 1977, it was the first day that President Jimmy Carter was in office. One of his first full day in office. And one of the things he did was keep a campaign promise. And with the stroke of a pen, he pardoned every person who had not registered for the draft. He pardoned every person in the United States and who had fled the country for failing to serve. So a mass a mass pardon has occurred. Jimmy Carter did it. President Jimmy Carter did it on January 21st. He didn't list the names of the people. He gave a mass pardon. The power of the president as it relates to pardon is almost resolute. The United States Constitution, which I wish most people would read rather than what they'll tell you on various media outlets, to read it. It's not that long, but it says that the president's limitation on pardons is impeachment, that the president cannot use a pardon to have someone avoid or countermand an impeachment. That's it. So it
mm.
is possible, and I pray this does not happen, but it's possible for President Trump, before he leaves office, with the stroke of a pen, to release every federal prisoner in
Oh,
every federal penitentiary and every federal jail and every federal charge in
oh
the
my.
nation.
Mm.
So I see you shaking your head, and here's my response to it. We need to ask ourselves in 2021, do we want our president, whoever he or she may be, to have that much power to pardon?
Mm,
And I would assert that the reasonable person would say we need to put limitations on it.
mm, mm.
So that's why we need to go and start a movement to amend the United States Constitution to put limits on pardons. If if you believe that the president should not have that resolute, extraordinary ability. If you believe that, then so be it. So we have a specific example of the use of a pardon. Oh, here's one other thing. There is a myth in our community that says the president cannot pardon someone before they're charged with a crime. Again, that's not true. Let's go back to history. When President Nixon resigned, he had not been criminally charged with anything, and he had not been impeached. A lot of people don't remember that. So when President Gerald Ford, elevated to the presidency based upon President Nixon's resignation, he unilaterally pardoned President Nixon for any and all acts he committed illegally while president. He hadn't even been charged. So it is possible for our president, Trump, with the stroke of a pen, to pardon everybody at the Capitol, even if they have that committed those heinous crimes, that treason, those domestic terrors. He has the ability to pardon every single one of them. Oh, here's the other thing I forgot to put into context. He doesn't have the ability to pardon, but only for federal issues. So if there were state charges, he has no authority to pardon. But last time I checked, Washington, D.C. is, first of all, not in a state. It is not a state. So what state charges would be brought in a place that's not a state?
So the local authorities can't go after those individuals because it's not a state.
I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
So that would be a question best posed to a lawyer. But his limitations on pardoning is only at the federal level and impeachment. That's it.
That's terrible.
That's our reality.
Those guys that killed the officer. Oh, that's terrible. Wow. I'm speechless. I really am speechless. So let me ask you this. In Councilwoman Gantt and I, we talked about this a little bit. Do you think that if that would have been Black Lives Matter, would they have been treated differently by law enforcement at the Capitol?
Yes,
Do you think they
absolutely.
would have opened fire on them?
Well, I can't speak to firing on them. I don't know, and I can't get into the mind of any individual officer.
Okay.
But of course, they would have been treated differently because, first of all, the president would have determined that they were, in fact, a threat. And so, therefore, just like he did in the past, he would have approved thousands of National Guard assets, and there would have been a robust response to repel any assault on the Capitol. But last time I checked, I don't remember seeing Black Lives Matter or Antifa going into the Capitol building, desecrating our house, which is what they did, and seeking out people for assassination. Okay, I don't remember that.
No, me either.
Okay. Now, if you do, you let me know. But
No, I don't
remember
either.
that.
As far as I know, Black Lives Matter has always had peaceful protests. It's been, agitators, but they've always had peaceful protests. And, just to see, and one of the officers was saying yesterday, he thought about going for his gun and opening fire, but then he thought, well, no, they'll take it from me and shoot me with it. But I'm just appalled that, hearing this, that some law enforcement open the gates and the doors and let them in. I just can't believe this. And to hear you say that he can actually pardon all of them is just disheartening. I just cannot. That's terrible. So from the law enforcement community, that you can speak on, how are you guys looking at this? How do you guys feel about this?
It's tragic. We've got 2 dead police officers. Okay, we've got, from what I read, there are over 50 officers that were injured. Where's Blue Lives Matter? Because aren't these the same people who supposedly asserted that Blue Lives Matter and that they're pro law enforcement? I don't see those as being aligned. I see them as being disparate.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will also say this. You didn't ask me the question, but I will also say this. There were people that were videotaped carrying Confederate flags.
Yeah.
Well, last time I checked, the history of our United States said that they lost the war.
Right.
So I don't understand why anybody would be supporting an entity that lost. The United States put them down.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so you're going to bring a Confederate flag or Confederate flags, plural, into our United States, our house, the Capitol? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
You're confused because these
Mhm.
are the United States of America.
Mhm.
This isn't the Confederacy. And I'm gonna draw an analogy that will probably make some people upset. But the reality is, if you go to Germany and you fly a Nazi flag, they're going to confiscate that flag and you're going to jail, and you're going to face
Oh.
state charges. You can't fly a Nazi flag in Germany.
Mm.
It's
Rightfully
illegal.
so. Yeah,
Okay,
rightfully so. It should be.
so we need to rethink what we have learned from this past 4 years. We as a country and its members need to decide beyond the voting. The voting took care of itself, although there were some issues there. Uh, but the reality is, we have to decide what it is that we want as a country. But people should not fall asleep behind the wheel. Okay? There needs to be additional change to support the interests of the majority of the people in the country through non-violent means.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. The things that you have shared with us has just opened my eyes to a whole new, especially hearing that he can open the federal jails and just pardon everybody. That's just wow. Yeah, we definitely got to make some change to that altogether. Make an amendment, what have you. I just don't think that that's fair. Because if that's the case, people that murdered or did all kinds of crazy stuff can just walk. In the case of these individuals that stormed the Capitol, I mean,
As it relates to federal charges, that is correct.
mm, that's terrible. You
But
guys,
let me point this out, because I'm not looking to poke people. I'm not looking to poke people in the eye, but your audience, I plead with them: read the Constitution for yourself. See what it really says. Please don't be misled by the media. The power of the presidency is awesome and sacred. We have to make sure we put the right people in that seat.
Mhm. You're so right. You're so right when you say it's sacred, and we need to put somebody in that seat that has human decency. And I believe that presidential elect Joe Biden is just that. Like he said, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, we're going to do this together. And he gives me the impression that he's got human decency. And I just cannot wait for Wednesday. I just cannot wait. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any questions for Chief Williams? Or is there anything you guys want to say? I'm looking at the comments here. People are saying so true. Some people are shocked, saying, "Wow, they didn't know that." Um, let's see here. Yeah, they're just going on and on about, they're just baffled at what you shared with us. And I think you and I talked offline about this before, that we as an African American community, we've got to hold our leaders to a higher standard, and that explain to us, like you just challenged us to read the Constitution, whip it out, read it, make sure you're informed on stuff. And it's good that we're voting again. And in Georgia, we really got out the vote. But I think you shared with me in the case of Tamir Rice that was gunned down by the police, just like you said, we just need to make sure we're informed on what's going on and what's going out there. Do you guys have any questions for Chief Williams? Is there anything else you would like to share with us, sir, that can help us better as a community to
Yes, yes. A lot of people are upset, and rightfully so, that that child is dead, Tamir Rice. No way in the world he should have died. There were so many things that went wrong there. But again, talking about myths in our community versus the facts. I implore your viewers to look at Tennessee versus Garner and Graham versus Connor. Those are the two U.S. Supreme Court cases. I'll repeat them again. Tennessee versus, um, well, now I'm having a mental block. Graham versus Connor in Tennessee. It'll come to me in just a second. But I said it correctly the first time. Those two court cases are the litmus test that every lethal use of police um, force, every lethal use of police force is compared against. Tennessee versus Garner, Graham versus Connor. Why is this important? Because the majority of cases where people die at the hands of the police are not, I repeat, are not criminally prosecuted. And people are sitting there scratching their head saying, wait a minute, the police killed that man. We've even got a video. But what they don't understand is that attorneys feel prove. And if you look at Tennessee versus Garner and Graham versus Connor, you will find that the United States Supreme Court decades ago set the bar so high that it's almost impossible to bring a successful case against a police officer for use of lethal force.
Mm.
Okay? So keep those two cases in mind and then go back and look at the Jacob Lively shooting where he was shot in the back multiple times. Look at the statement of the county prosecutor or district attorney as to why they did not bring charges. Okay? And so don't be angry at your local prosecutor. Why not take a look at those court cases that have set the bar so high and then ask yourself, wait a minute, if somebody had just told me this before, I would have been working to get those court cases changed. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here's
Yes.
the problem. The only person on this planet who can put people on the United States Supreme Court is the President of the United States.
Mm.
He's the only person. He's the only person that can nominate people and once confirmed by the Senate, get seated on the United States Supreme Court. He hadn't done it once. He hadn't done it twice. He's done it 3 times in 4 years. The court is so far slanted to the right now that there will be snow in hell before there are changes to court cases that people in the community feel should have been resolved differently.
Oh my God.
Viewers, now do you understand why you need to vote?
Yes.
Okay. And since, and this is speculation on my part, that now that Senator McConnell has what he wants, they put over 200 people on the federal courts. Every one of them is lifetime appointments, every single one. They have built their team so deep that extraordinary change would have to occur before court decisions change. I am not suggesting that any court decision is right or wrong. I'm just trying to educate people so they understand. You can't stay home. You must vote
Mm-hmm.
and drag somebody else out to vote so that you can see the types of laws that you prefer. But we're not going to have them for a long time because the courts have been padded. Does that make sense?
It does. That's horrible. So when we see these unjust things happen to individuals being shot, murdered, or killed by the police, and we say, well, how is it that he walked? That makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. But guess what? The positive is that we're awake now. Georgia proved it. We're awake and we're going to vote and we're going to just keep at it. But also
Okay,
on our part, we need to know what the laws are as well, so that when you are pulled over or things happen, you know not to do this. And I mean, we can go on and on for hours and hours about this, but I think you mentioned it earlier that we as a people, we need to be educated more and know what the laws are and what's going on.
I agree. And I actually have spoken publicly. There are some videos that can be pulled up that are seated in the internet where I've done presentations on how to survive contacts with police. And so
Okay.
I would be happy to share those links with you. Take a look at them, and then perhaps it would form the questions for me to come back and visit again and talk
Absolutely.
specifically to that. But I think it's
Yeah.
critically important that we do teach people how to survive contacts with the police. I think it's important because there's things that I would like to see police be trained differently in certain areas, but also I would like people to understand. Um, oh, here's a perfect example. It's comedy and it's going to be offensive to someone, but Chris Rock put out a video a number of years ago how
Yes.
not to get your ass kicked by the police,
I
and people
saw.
were cracking up. They thought it was funny. I use it as a training video. I
Wow.
do. I use it as a training video because it's the truth.
Mhm.
Okay, and
Mhm.
so I then I warn people ahead of time that there's some profanity in it, but I want them to get the message. So I offer myself to you to come back at whenever you want me to and talk specifics, because there are some people who are going to assert that, oh, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, do you want to live? You know,
Mm.
I certainly am very careful when I get stopped by the police because I've been black all my life and I've been carrying a gun for 42 straight years. And I've been stopped
Wow.
many times by the police. But I'm very, very careful because don't nobody look at me and say, "Oh, that's the police," or "That's a police chief." Mm-mm. I don't even care if I'm in a suit. Doesn't matter what I have on. It doesn't matter if I got a
Mhm.
hoodie. I got to use some common sense in my head because I need to navigate that interaction to remain safe. Does that make sense?
Wow, it does. It does. Oh my goodness. Definitely. We got to have you back on. You guys, please ask questions while we got Chief Williams here. I'm going to have him come back. Let me know. I'm just looking at some of the comments, and somebody said one of the problems is blacks, we have knowledge of a lot of things, but they don't care, don't want to hear it, and do what they want to make their point. Yeah, agree. And wow. I mean, just knowing that we just need to be educated on what's going on, what's going on. Please tell the viewers how they can follow you. And yes, please get me that link. I'm going to put it in the comment section. How can people follow you, or if they have any further questions, is there any information you'd like to share of how they can touch base with you?
With me personally, um, let me, yes, I have an email that I'm willing to share, mindset539 at yahoo.com. Mindset539 at yahoo.com. If you think of questions after the fact, viewers, and you want to reach out to me, my name's Kevin Williams. I'm a little slow, but I will answer if you email me, mindset539 at yahoo.com. I also want to share one other thing.
Hmm.
If you go to Google and put my name in, Kevin Williams, and put in twisted, like you twist something,
Hmm.
twisted storytellers, twisted storytellers. I did spoken word a few years back as a police chief and talked about the shooting in Ferguson, and I talked about the riots in Los Angeles and
Mm.
my observations and things that I took away from that. The video is about 16 minutes long and it's Twisted Storytellers. Just put in Kevin Williams and I'll pop right up um, with a yellow shirt on and a picture of a black emperor on my shirt.
Okay. We know what that is. Okay, definitely, definitely. Well, I thank you so much for coming on and being able to talk with us candid and open about everything from the pardons, just everything in law enforcement. That's what we need is more people like yourself of color that isn't afraid to share things with us so that we can be better and we can prevent from being gunned down and Oh man, this is deep. So I appreciate you so much. You're welcome to come back on Let's Talk anytime. There's so many comments and things being said here. I can't even read them all, but I can tell you it's all good. It's definitely all good. Let me just check one other quick thing to see if anybody, and I know you freezing out there in the cold, bless your
Oh,
heart.
oh yeah, but that's okay. You know, we, we
Yeah,
we have to be able to give back.
yes, we do. We really do. I mean, yes, and I appreciate you so much. So much. So you are welcome here on Let's Talk anytime. And in fact, yes, I would like you to come back and talk more open about some of the things that we need to know and learn. Definitely. So
Okay,
you
I
you
would consider it a privilege.
oh well, thank you. You stay warm and wear your mask, wash your hands, all that good stuff. And we will definitely be in touch. Thank you so much, Chief Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you. He put his mask on. All right. Wow. That was just so eye opening. Oh my goodness. The things that he shared with us, you guys. I'm just speechless. I'm appalled at some of the things they share, but it's real, right? We need to know these things so that we can prevent further things from happening, so that we can be smart in our decisions that we make. But definitely, I'm going to have him back for sure, for sure. And I hope I don't get banned from Facebook, but these are discussions that we need to have in our community. So I want to thank Councilwoman Gantt, Lakeisha Gantt, and Chief Williams, Kevin Williams, for coming on Let's Talk. I thank you so much for sharing with us. It's just amazing when you've got people in your community that can share and help us understand things better. So as we close out the show, I want to leave you guys with a positive thought. If you're stressed, and if you're not stressed, if you ever do become stressed, I want you to take these words in consideration. I found this on a positive thinking website, and it's called If You're Stressed. If you're dealing with a loss of a loved one, unemployment, your kids are driving you crazy from being at home, schooled instead of being at school, the pandemic, the elections, the insurrection, all that craziness. If you become stressed, just think about this. Every time you take a shower, visualize washing away your stress and anxiety. Concentrate on the feel of the water upon your skin. Envision the power of the water washing away your negative thoughts. Feel sadness, regret, anger, and depression washing right off of you. Let it go down the drain. You'll start to feel lighter and much more clean. So make sure you try that. And when you become stressed, make sure you do something that you love to do, whether it's reading, bicycling, running, skating, whatever it is, taking pictures, photography, whatever it is, do it to just keep your mind at peace. And this too shall pass. We will get through this, and just know that it's going to be okay. I believe it's going to be just fine. After Wednesday, things will get better. So, you guys, every week you can view my shows on two social mediums. One of them, as I tell you, is on Facebook under Let's Talk with Author Drillette, and also my YouTube channel, which is called Let's Talk with Author Drillette. There you can see all the shows from August, from where I first began. You can see how I've evolved and changed and improved, and you can see all the guests there. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and tell a friend and tell a friend. This is the show where we inform, inspire, and motivate. And so I just want to tell you guys to make sure that you are safe out there, that you wear your mask, that you wear that you wash your hands, stand 6 feet apart, and be safe. And if no one has told you today, I will tell you I love you. Have a blessed, safe weekend, and we shall see you soon. And with that, I'm out.